This is Ben Meiselas from the Midas Touch Network, and this is a breaking news alert. Donald Trump's 108-page RICO lawsuit that he filed back in March of 2022 against Hillary Clinton and about 30 other people who were named as defendants, blaming them for harming him by spreading what he called the Russian lie. That case has been dismissed with prejudice as it relates to every one of the defendants who made merits-based arguments. The court slammed Donald Trump in its ruling. It was Judge Middlebrooks of the Southern District of Florida, and Judge Middlebrooks reached a 65-page decision, and at the end basically saying that this case was so frivolous that he would consider sanctions against the lawyers and that he would maintain jurisdiction for purposes of sanctions. And if you go to just the very last page, in fact, of the order, which is subsection 7, it says, I reserve jurisdiction to adjudicate issues pertaining to sanctions. I'll talk more about just how frivolous this lawsuit was in a moment. But who brought it? Alina Habba and a local Florida counsel. And Alina Habba did the news tour, and all the legal observers, the same way we've been saying it very recently, were saying Alina Habba has no clue what she's talking about. This is the most humiliating, embarrassing, frivolous lawsuit. It's a shotgun pleading. It is a dangerous lawsuit just in terms of the complete BS of the accusations that are being made, and it's a waste of judicial resources. It's completely barred by the statute of limitations. She doesn't even know the most basic elements of a RICO claim that requires 2 what's called predicate acts. It's just a stream of consciousness mess of a filing, just basically construing Trump's Truth Social posts together and basically calling a complaint. It is anathema to the whole legal system that a case like this gets filed, yet alone from someone who somehow is the former president of the United States. And the judge completely understood that. And so the case was filed in March. Let's talk about the procedural history here. Case filed in March 24th of 2022. All the media wrote, Trump sues Hillary Clinton. That's what he wanted. He wanted the headline. Let's see if the media really devotes the same amount of time to really analyzing how frivolous this is that Trump will be sanctioned as when this case was announced back in March. The case was assigned to Judge Middlebrooks, but who did Trump want the case to be assigned to? Aileen Cannon. Yes, Aileen Cannon, who's overseeing his, again, frivolous motion for judicial oversight, which she actually granted the special master, where every legal observer said that was the most dangerous and idiotic judicial decision we've essentially ever read. Trump tried to get this case against Hillary Clinton and against Perkins Coie and against Peter Strzok and again 30 people, all the people who Trump rails against on his failing social media platforms. He tried to get that case in front of Aileen Cannon, but it got assigned to a different judge, Judge Middlebrooks. And then what did Trump try to do? In April, he filed a disqualification motion against Judge Middlebrooks and saying that Judge Middlebrooks was biased against him. And what he was trying to do there, and again, the legal observers weren't so much focused on that move at the time because we didn't really know Aileen Cannon's depths of corruption. But what Trump was trying to do is get that case in front of Judge Aileen Cannon to try to disqualify the judge, and his disqualification motion was denied. But in a footnote in the disqualification order where the judge says, I'm not disqualifying myself, the judge lays out, and this is back in April. This is back in April 6th of 2022. In footnote 3, the judge goes, I note that plaintiff filed this lawsuit in the Fort Pierce division of the district, where only one federal judge sits, Judge Aileen Cannon, who plaintiff appointed in 2020. Despite the odds, this case landed with me instead. And when plaintiff is a litigant before a judge that he himself appointed, he does not tend to advance these same sorts of bias concerns. And so even back in April, right, May, June, July, August, right? So 4 months before the search warrant executed at Mar-a-Lago, And on August 22nd, when Trump filed the motion that did get in front of Judge Cannon, here Trump was trying to file this frivolous 108-page complaint in front of the corrupt Trump-appointed judge. It just goes to show you the levels of corruption. Now, what did Trump allege in his 108-page complaint? Well, it was a mess. It was RICO claims and expressing his grievances. Even here in the order that the Judge Middlebrooks has just reached today, Judge Middlebrooks basically says that it's not exactly a clear and plain assertion of facts. I'll try to decipher what this is. And the judge goes, plaintiff initiated this lawsuit on March 24th, 2022, alleging that, quote, the defendants, blinded by political ambition, orchestrated a malicious conspiracy to disseminate patently false and injurious information about Donald Trump and his campaign, all in the hopes of destroying his life. Then it goes on this general premise, plaintiff brings a claim for violations of RICO, predicated on theft of trade secrets, obstruction of justice, and wire fraud, and other claims. Plaintiff's theory of this case, set forth over 527 paragraphs in the first 118 pages of the amended complaint, is difficult to summarize in a concise and cohesive manner. It was certainly not presented that way. Nevertheless, I will attempt to distill it here. And then the court tries to say, I think this is what you were saying. But ultimately what the court says here, the court says, number one, you're barred by the statute of limitations to bring any of these claims. And what the court points to are these tweets that Trump made in 2017. And the court said in 2017, and when you read these tweets, it just goes to show you again just how demented and dangerous Donald Trump is. And you forget just some of these tweets. And so the court points out plaintiff's tweets included the following declarations that appear directly on point to his claims in the instant in litigation. And this is on page 23. And then tweets are, it now turns out that the phony allegations against me were put together by my political opponents and a failed spy, afraid of being sued, totally made up facts, blah, 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 blah. That one was January 13 of 2017. And then the court points to the earlier one too, October 29th, 2017. Never seen such Republican anger and unity, all caps, as I have concerning the lack of investigation on Clinton-made fake dossier, now $12 million, the uranium Russian deal, 33,000 plus deleted emails, the Comey fix, Trump-Russia collusion. I mean, it's hard to even follow what the hell he's saying here, but that was filed on October 29th, 2017. For RICO claims, there is a 4-year statute of limitations, meaning the latest this lawsuit could have been brought was October of 2021. This lawsuit was brought in March of 2022, so well past the statute of limitations where Trump made these claims. But then the court just wants to say, look, said it because, the court knows that Donald Trump, if you just rule on statute of limitations, Trump would say, oh, it's bogus, it's BS. It's a technicality. So then the court does the analysis on the merits of Trump's RICO claims and just decimates it and shows that Trump doesn't even have an understanding of what obstruction of justice means in the context of RICO, what trade secrets mean in the context of RICO, what wire fraud means in the context of RICO, like that Trump's just using these words and saying the word RICO and then just whining and complaining and blabbering page after page after page in this lawsuit. What the court also notes as well, and here's the thing, right when the previous motion to dismiss was filed in this action against Trump's original complaint, Trump then just amended the complaint and just threw more pages of irrelevant information, which the court again says is entirely improper. And there's just a number of really other just good zingers in here where the court just clearly Trump and his lawyers, filed this frivolous claim. They call it a shotgun pleading. They say it violates all of the rules of court, that this is not intended for a judicial audience. If he wants to air his grievances, go air your grievances somewhere else, but don't air your grievances here. Court explains, fundamentally, plaintiff cannot state a RICO claim without 2 predicate acts, and after 2 attempts, he has failed to plausibly allege even one. Plaintiff cannot state an injurious falsehood claim without allegations of harm to his property interest, and plaintiff cannot state a malicious prosecution claim without a judicial proceeding, but he unsuccessfully attempts to misconstrue, misstate, and misapply the law to do so anyway. Moreover, Trump's statutory claims on the DNS data reset rest on a misconstruction of the conduct those laws prescribe and the harms they remediate. Because plaintiff was unable to cure his complaint, even with all its shortcomings clearly laid out for him, and because most of plaintiff's claims are not only unsupported by any legal authority, but plainly foreclosed by binding precedent, as set forth by the Supreme Court and the 11th Circuit, I find the amendments would be futile, and this case should be dismissed with prejudice as to the defendants that have raised merits-based arguments. And so again, strong language by the judge here. And then the judge also says this. Defendants now move to dismiss the amended complaint as, quote, a series of disconnected political disputes that plaintiff has alchemized into a sweeping conspiracy among the many individuals plaintiffs believe to have aggrieved him. They argue that dismissal is warranted because plaintiff's claims are both hopelessly stale, that is, foreclosed by the applicable statute of limitations, and because they fail on the merits, quote, in multiple independent respects. As they view it, whatever utilities of the amended complaint has as a fundraising tool for Trump, a press release, or a list of political grievances, it has no merits as a lawsuit. And the court goes on and says, I agree. And so, again, the defendants in this case who Trump sued, Hillary Clinton, the DNC, Michael Sussman, Mark Elias, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Jake Sullivan, Podesta, Philip Rines, Fusion GPS, Rodney Jaffe, Comey, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page. He goes on and just sues everybody. And those are all dismissed. And now these people can seek sanctions. And hopefully they seek severe and significant monetary sanctions against Alina Habba and Trump for filing this absolutely frivolous lawsuit. So Trump's case is dismissed. This failed, flawed RICO case is dismissed. The defendants can now seek sanctions against Trump and Alina Habba for filing such a frivolous lawsuit. And we also see here what Trump was trying to do even back in April, which further sheds light on the corruption of Judge Aileen Cannon, with Trump trying to forum shop and get this frivolous case in front of Judge Aileen Cannon. Now think for a moment. Judge Aileen Cannon, who's ignored all of the law as it relates to a special master, as it relates to executive privilege, as it relates to the possessory ownership of Trump over top secret, sensitive, compartmented information, her enjoining the government from conducting a criminal investigation. I want you to think, it's so obvious that Trump knew how corrupt she was back then, trying to get this case in front of her, trying to disqualify this judge. And it just sheds new light as well on just what an embarrassingly corrupt and despicable Judge Aileen Cannon is, who will go down in the judiciary, infamously as being probably one of the worst and most corrupt judges in the history of the United States. This has been Mycellus from the Midas Touch Network on a breaking news alert. Oh, we just got a Patreon account. Check it out. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. A lot of exclusive features, exclusive benefits. You could become a producer of the Midas Touch podcast, get some postcards from me and my brothers, and a bunch of other exclusive content. Patreon, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. I know you always say, how can we support independent media? We want to support independent media. That's one of the ways that you can do it. No worries either way. And you can hit the subscribe button right here. So hit subscribe right now and join the fastest growing independent pro-democracy movement in the world.
This November is Rovember. Midas Touch just released its brand new collection of Rovember t-shirts and pins to let the country know what's at stake this upcoming midterm election. Go to store.MeidasTouch.com to grab yours. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.